Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this session that is dealing with a hot new topic. And for the introduction, I now ask Dr. Balvir Toma to take the stage and to introduce you to our topic. Please.
Good afternoon, everyone. Topic is orbiting the global health, navigating the nexus of space and health. It's my pleasure to welcome you all in this exciting session. The rapid advancement in the space exploration over recent years have opened up a world of possibilities. Government mission to Moon and Mars and the rise of private space companies are reshaping our understanding of what is possible. These developments are not just about venturing beyond Earth, but also about solving critical problems here at home, especially in the healthcare. We have already seen how space technologies are leveraged to address global health challenges, from satellite systems that help monitor environmental and climate changes to the telemedicine powered by the space-based communication. Space is becoming vital in advancing health outcomes, the cost-effective development in healthcare equipments made possible by the innovations from the space sector is bringing real benefits to the people across the globe. Some key benefits of space technologies to global health identified by the United Nations Office of Outer Space Affairs includes telemedicine and the telehealth, teleepidemiology for epidemic and disease monitoring, disaster management and humanitarian aids. Devices developed based on space technologies have further enhanced the medical imaging and diagnostics, health monitoring, beverages, vaccine development, and drug testing. There are several case studies on the application of space technologies in the health and determination of health. For instance, the European Union, this Copernicus program uses Earth observation data to monitor climate change and the environmental factors that influence disease patterns, especially in the cases of vector-borne diseases. By linking environmental data to the health outcome, authorities are better equipped to protect and predict outbreaks of diseases like dengue and Zika, which are highly sensitive to the changes in the weather and landscape. The invention and development of the remote sensing, geographical information system, and global positioning system to select survey locations where turning positions in application of space technology in health. Knowing the temporal and the spatial distribution of the vector population is critical to understanding the incidence of the diseases and the size of the human population at risk. However, given some countries' geographical expenses and the diversities, analyzing the pattern of disease transmission dynamics is challenging. Such scenarios using space technologies such as GIS and GPS have been particularly beneficial for mapping and breeding sites and recording data on the density and characteristics of the breeding sites of diseases causing vector. But as we celebrate these achievements, the geopolitical competition in the space and increasing the militarization of the space are raising concern about the future. Despite space being recognized as the global common by the Outer Space Treaty, the race of the dominance and the commercialization could result in havoc in the use of space. When we add the risk of space debris, biological contaminations, and the complexities of the space governance, we see that there is much to stake. In this context, I think it is pretended to consider how we can ensure that space technologies continues to benefit health system globally, how to we foster collaboration rather than competition, a discussion on to promote the interdisciplinary governance that ensures space is used responsibly and equitably is needed of the hour. I invite our distinguished moderators and the panelists to share their insight and help us to understand how to strike the right balance between opportunity and responsibility, competition and cooperation as we navigate this new frontier together. Thank you, and I look forward to engaging in a very beautiful, good discussion. Thank you very much.
Thank you, dear Chancellor from the NIMS University. And my name is Helmut Brandt. I'm representing Manipal University from India here, and we have a new topic. So my question to you is to find a little bit out about what your motivation is and what your knowledge is. Who of you has experience with the technical part of space, using satellite data or something like this? Anyone in the room? No? Okay. Yeah, they are all. It would be have a pity if there no one would have said that. Your car, your self-driving car or something. Okay. So have you ever experienced information directly coming from using these results that came up? We saw already several examples where you know that space and health might have been useful. So in a way, we are exploring new grounds. That's very, very good. That's the reason why we will do this session old style. There will be 4 presentations each. After a presentation, short questions for the understanding, but not long. And we would like to have more time in the end to discuss. I think that is something we can agree on. We didn't ask for PowerPoint slides because then you read them faster than the presenter can read them out. We wanted to avoid this. And I have to start with apologies. Kishan Taka, who wanted to come, who runs a new startup and using satellite data for remote sensing, his flight was delayed. So technology sometimes even hampers us a little bit. But his company, Galaxy Eye, what a wonderful name. He even had a session with Prime Minister Modi in India about this, and it's a 3-year-old company. And he is young, and we wanted to present him as a role model. You don't have to be rich as Elon Musk to go to space. And you can be very young to be very successful in this business. So sorry that he is not here, but we have other speakers who will fill the gap. The first one I would like to introduce is Caroline Perrin. She's Executive Director of the Geneva Digital Health Hub. And your institution and you as a person are one of the front runners getting involved in this topic. And can you give us a little bit an introduction about the usefulness of these ideas?
Sure, definitely. Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. It's really a pleasure to be here. First of all, I would like to thank the organizers of the World Health Summit for putting this topic on the agenda, because even though it's a relatively new topic, there has been quite a bit of work ongoing in this domain since a decade. And it hasn't been discussed a lot in global fora. So I think it's a really nice way of engaging with the new public. We've heard already some examples of space and global health, but usually when I speak to colleagues or friends about this topic, I get a little bit a look that they are not sure what I'm speaking about, and because it sounds abstract, space and health. But in reality, there are very concrete applications that are already up and running and being used. As has been mentioned before, there's remote sensing that's being used for using satellite and Earth observation data for disease surveillance, environmental monitoring, and prediction. For example, if you're in a malaria region and you use Earth observation data after rainfall to see if there's stagnant water, you can predict that there will be malaria outbreaks, so you can bring mosquito nets, medication there. It can help you to make better decisions and a better resource allocation. Then another application that is used quite a lot is disaster response. So using satellite images after disasters, can be natural, earthquakes, landslides, floodings, where in real time it can be checked which roads are still accessible, how can the help get to the regions, and so on. And then there is one area that's maybe a little bit different, which is a transfer of space exploration technology. As we've heard in the introduction, I mean, there's a lot of effort from the space agencies now exploring human man travel to Mars, but as many of you are maybe aware that, traveling to Mars and coming back is actually quite a long trip, 21 months. And if we want to send humans to Mars, of course, we need to prepare for different situations, and there are different technologies that are being developed for the space exploration that could be used in a global health context. For example, the development of completely autonomous telemedical systems, because when you're going to Mars, even if you want to communicate with the doctor, the communication delays are getting so long that you cannot use this option that we have here. So you really need to build completely autonomous systems. After 1.5 years ago, we had a very interesting conference where we had the chief medical officer of NASA who was speaking about some of the other technologies they are developing, like they developed an oxygen generator that has the size of a small table and that could feed a full small hospital. Or they are working on 3D printing of medication. And I think these are all things that if we let it sink in a bit and think about it, how it could be applied in a global health context, there are a lot of opportunities. So it's not only satellite data, there are also some other aspects. But of course, when you have a new domain or a domain general, there are also a lot of challenges. One of them being that it's a relatively new domain. I mean, it's not formalized, it's not structured. There's still a lot of questions. There's different understandings. So there's some advocacy work I would say that needs to be done on what space and global health is. And then, as we heard some of the examples, Earth observation data is really powerful, but when you have powerful tools, you also have people that look for ways how to misuse them, and so there are risks and potential misuses. Then there are questions around how can we ensure an equitable access, how can we govern these tools, how can we develop data sharing mechanisms, interoperability. Whenever you have technology, that's one of the major challenges. But what all of these challenges have in common is that they need collaboration to be addressed to. And that's one of the reasons why the Space and Global Health Network was established, that is hosted by the Geneva Digital Health Hub. So the Space and Global Health Network is an open and flexible network of governmental institutions, international organizations, NGOs, and other relevant stakeholders. And it was established in 2022 as an outcome of the work of the United Nations Office for Outer Space Affairs, where we have Jorge, who will speak after. And it came out of the STSC working group on space and global health, which also resulted in a recommendation on space and global health that was adopted in the General Assembly in 2022. And the main objectives of the network are really to promote effective collaboration on space and global health issues and to promote capacity building efforts. And some of the activities of the network are obviously around capacity building and collaboration, but currently the network is working on a curriculum. So what are the skills, what are the competencies that one needs who's interested in working on this topic? And then we are also looking at implementing this curriculum in different universities, but also we are developing 2 MOOCs. So one that is addressed more at policymakers and decision makers that outlines a little bit more the different potential, the risks, governance, and so on. And then there will be one MOOC that is more focused on technical aspects, so for students, implementers, and so on. Then we also run events and co-creation events. For example, in May this year, we ran a hackathon in collaboration with the European Space Agency, which really brought together different actors with different backgrounds, different seniority. So there were students, and then there were very senior people. And just as an example, what can come out of these kind of hackathons was we had a heat resilience decision support platform, a concept for an AI for skin health diagnostics, and a disease surveillance platform. And together with ESA, we see these kind of hackathons not only as a way to reinforce collaboration, but also really as a capacity building means, because one of the primary outcomes is really to develop new skills. And then we are also organizing a lot of conferences, webinars, and things like that. So just to conclude, it's a domain that's relatively new. There has been a lot of work that has been going on, but we're still really at the beginning. So we don't expect to come out of the session today with solutions to the grand challenges in this domain. But we have to start somewhere, so we are really grateful that we have the World Health Summit to bring this topic to a global dialogue. And then anyone who's interested in this topic, I really welcome you to join the Space and Global Health Network. You can go on the website, it's sgh.network. We really welcome anyone, institutions, or individual stakeholders. So yeah, please join us, and that's it.
Thank you very much. So what we learned out of this presentation is that there is already a fan club that is very well organized. And perhaps next time when you have an online meeting, you might use Starlink 2.0. Via satellite, you get your internet for, what was it, 45 euros per month. And the astronomers are angry because those 300 satellites running around block the view to the stars. So that's an interesting thing that comes up, unintended issues. One question we can have for clarification? If not needed, then we just go on. That would be great. And I now introduce Professor Ilona Kickbusch. I think everyone will know her. And she is the founder and chair of the International Advisory for the Global Health Center from the Geneva Graduate Institute. And I think if you have a question regarding governance, she is the person to answer. I don't think that there was governance before Ilona worked on it. So what do we have to do now? Because you already mentioned there might be misuse. We don't know how can we, the different countries that sometimes don't like each other, how can we bring them together? The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Helmut. And I'm very happy actually to see a nearly full house for this discussion. It's been a plan of mine for a long time to get this subject to the World Health Summit, and also thank you to the Indian colleagues to have helped on that. And I mean, one can, of course, and these are reactions I also get, first we moved from international to global health, and some people joked about that. Now we're moving into planetary health. We'll hear some things about that. And, so people joked, what's next? The universe? And our answer is yes. And, space and health is a very critical issue, and it actually will be interesting. Now we're sort of discussing both, the interrelationship of space technology and global health, but it's even more important if we start to think about it in planetary health terms, because then it's really also a mind shift of a different nature, because then it's not just about the health of us humans, but also, basically the health of us all on this planet. And that complementarity and conceptual shifts that will be going on in the next 5 to 10 years are something we already want to draw attention to. I must say a lot of thanks to Carolyn. About a year ago or so, I was at a conference that she had organized on space and health in Geneva. Okay, with you, thank you. And I learned so much. I mean, I was really blown away with the kind of things that are going on. But there is also a kind of consensus that is emerging that there is a need for a global regulatory framework now in relation to space technology, its use, and its relationship to global health. So we do need to develop norms. And one of the reasons this is happening is also the geopolitics that you mentioned, Helmut. And I mean, it's not an empty governance world out there. There's actually 5 major treaties on outer space. But we have to think back quite a while to when those treaties were agreed on. And this was at a point in time when outer space and, moving in space was seen as a global commons. And that was a different mind frame, which is one of the reasons I also mentioned planetary health now. So all these governance frameworks are from the Cold War era. And we're in a different situation now. And all the speakers before me alluded to it, that more and more states are interested in this. I mean, 4 states have reached the moon, and more are trying to do so. So we'll see more competition between governments as to, who, to whom which side of the moon belongs. There's a fascinating scientific novel about China having this part of the moon and the US having this part of the moon, and what happens then, and then people fall in love and all these things. But actually in science fiction, as strange as it sounds, you can find a lot of these things already present. And I must say, particularly in Chinese science fiction, and there's a beautiful graphic novel also by Cixin Lui around all these issues, for all mankind. And there's a Netflix series as well. So the thing is, we've lost this notion of global commons because of the commercialization and the geopolitical competition. And that's also the challenges of the agencies that were created to deal with this. And maybe we'll hear a bit about that, which is why, in terms of governance, the UN has established a new working group to actually see how one would address these new issues of commercialization, the application of space technology, the what's called economic potential, and the property rights and ownership. And this is becoming a really, really pressing issue. And the most pressing issue within that context is actually data. And we know in global health that data has become, and the governance of data has become an absolutely critical issue. And we've heard some of the observation technology that is used for continuous monitoring of temperature, of outbreaks, of extreme weather, etc. There are calls to combine these data, supposedly, to make them more efficient and everything. We've heard about the data management, about disaster management, excuse me, but we haven't really sorted out who owns the data. And these are challenges that this working group is going to take up, and that will be absolutely central. So as a first instance, you need a governance framework for the management of competition, and you need a governance framework that deals with some of these property rights and ownership. And then, of course, related to that is the whole issue of affordability. Who can play in this game, and what is the link then between countries in the south, countries in the north, new developing countries. And it's very interesting, a recent article in the ORF Foundation, a big Indian think tank, actually says that India should see itself as a possible norm shaper in relation to space and global health. And it was an issue that's also been taken up in the G20. So I guess my message is, this is not, there's a pun, far away. It's actually very close. It's very integrated into our everyday life. The gentleman over there says, yes, my car is in communication. We actually forget how much this has started to influence our everyday life. And we need to start understanding that. We obviously need an understanding of what was already, with the old space travel, will we get a Teflon frying pan or whatever out of it? But here are some really, really serious things, because at the same time, we have artificial intelligence, we have new means of communication, we have, new developments in biotechnology, and all these are going to play into this, which shows us that the governance frameworks are going to be very complex. It shows even more that the existing ones don't really work. And it shows, the challenge to this new UN working group to actually also be able to keep up with the rapid technological change that is happening there. So no, I don't have a solution how you govern space and health, but there are categories that we need to govern. And particularly with the way wealth has developed, one wouldn't have thought 20 years ago that private individuals could start to go out there in space, that private individuals can have positive and negative impacts. You think of, where Starlink is used and by whom. And so those kinds of things really need and sort of overlap with some of the governance issues we've not yet resolved on artificial intelligence in general, on digitalization and other things. But it's a really important issue, it's a fascinating issue, and I hope we can take it forward together. Thank you.
So except the governance, there are other two important missions you gave. If you want to be part of the discussion, read more science fiction. Yeah, because you cannot imagine what you remember. Some people might know what the tricoder is from this medic. Yeah, here someone is smiling, and there's even a prize for this, €1 million when you develop such a device from Star Trek. And the other one was that you said 4 countries already have been to the moon. And one nice story is when the first one, the Americans landed there, people from Kerala were already serving tea. Because the saying is people from Kerala are everywhere. So now we go to another country that has been on the moon and on not on the dark side, but on the shadow part.
Maybe, yeah.
So, Ermo Chen, he's from Peking University, and they have an Institute of Global Health and Development. And there he runs a very interesting project, the Planetary Health Access Project. And it's about planetary health positioning systems. That sounds a little bit disturbing. Are we all watched now? Please.
Okay. So I will answer the question that if we are all under the watch at the end of our talk. And firstly, first I will talk something about the data and the planetary boundaries and the viewpoint that the space will affect on global health and also the generalized definition of planetary health. So everyone has mentioned that the data from the space is very useful to overwatching the health on the Earth. But I have to mention that there is something more technical or more details that we can draft them out from the data from space. The first is that the data from space is very dynamically that we can get the health data maybe 1 week per month and maybe 1 year per chance. But the data from space is somehow timely that we can get even 1 second one result for some space. So in this view, this data contains many more information about health, both on the ground or in the water or in the air, that we can use more modern technologies of data to draft them out from these dynamic data. And in the second level, the data from the space is somehow very complex, that it contains different inter-reaction informations, which we could know from maybe from the forest information to get the animal health data, and maybe from the traffic information and the light information to get the information of health data of humans. And all these engines could make us to know more currently and more clearly to what is happening on Earth from the light, from the space, from the satellites. Yeah, this is the first level. And in the second level, I have to mention that space is also one kind of planetary boundary, which means which we have two means. The first one is that even we know the space is large, very large, but there is still limited space for us to send satellites and send rockets into the space. I am somehow familiar with the nature science, and there is limited suitable spaces for satellites to overwatching a ground on the Earth permanently. This point is very limited, and almost have already been taken by the areas, by the countries on the world. And so many people have mentioned that the satellites may cover the sky, and many more countries are trying to compete and overarching other spaces in that. So there is limited space in the near space of our Earth. So that limit the development of services for other health or for development or for other economics, which means it will act as a planet boundary. And also, the planet boundary will be affected by space, by the space technologies. Yeah. In this viewpoint, I mean that the planet boundary is also moving as our technical advantages. I mean, if we look back into 1,000 years ago, we may think the land overseas, we can never get there. So in that time, the issues there may be not concerned by our system, and that is not a planetary boundary. But now it is. So maybe in the recent future, the space outside maybe also be very well used by humanity. So at that time, it may also limit the development of space. Yeah, and in the third level, I want to mention is that the view from space is somehow the most important way that we can deal with many somehow major, but in a total view it is medium issues to settle with the real humanity health. That I mean to view the global from the space. We have only one Earth, so if we do a simple calculation that if we want to grow even a little positive amount, we mean maybe 1%, and in a long enough time, the total amount will access, even no matter what the total number is, we will also exceed that. That means to this point, the terminal solution to planetary health is space. That means the only way to settle with planetary boundary and human health is to go to space. Yeah. So in this viewpoint, I want to mention our project is just to provide something, just as we are standing in the space to watch or to monitoring the footprint of our civilization, of our humanity on many major points, such as human health, animal health, and environmental health, social economic health. That at least we can know where we are from the viewpoint of space, using the planetary health axis to provide some more information on the location of ourselves, and just only if we can know where we are, we can tell where to go. So that's our answer to the question.
Thank you very much. Ermo, you had encouraging news and disturbing news. The disturbing news is, hey, it's getting crowded up there. Do we need a traffic light system or something like this that they don't collide? And I read in your CV that you worked for reinsurance too.
Yeah.
Do we have to make insurance for satellites now?
We have already insurance to satellites. Yeah.
There's no field where the insurance people are not. And now we come to the final speaker, and you have to answer now a lot of questions because everyone now is activated. And Jorgo della Riovera, I'm sorry for reading this name so not in a fluent way. He is from the United Nations, and they have, what was quoted already, an Office for Outer Space Affairs. I always question myself, space and outer space. Perhaps you can highlight us what's the difference. And the motto of them is access to space for all. Not health for all, but access to space for all. And there will be a link. And please enlighten us what our institution that we all run, the United Nations, think about how to manage this in a competitive national geopolitical time.
Thank you, Helmut. So yeah, a lot of complicated questions. First, well, I would like to thank Ilona and the World Health Summit for the invitation. It's really nice to be here and to be discussing with people that normally we don't have the opportunity to discuss. We normally talk to space agencies. So thank you, Ilona, also for introducing the topic here in the World Health Summit, so you get more awareness about what's going on in space and on Earth. Okay, let's start with the basics, and I'm going to have questions to you. So, who knew that there is an Office for Outer Space Affairs in the United Nations before entering this room today? Wow. Not bad, not bad. Okay. Then I have another question related. Who knew before entering the room today that there was a United Nations General Assembly resolution on space and global health? Oui. Okay, a little bit less. So, that's the context that we have. Actually, United Nations has been working on space and health for quite a long time, and this resolution is part of the outcome of that work. In the Office for Outer Space Affairs, we do mainly two things. One is space diplomacy, so we are helping countries to discuss among themselves about the space, and there are a lot of topics that have been mentioned, like planetary protection. What happens if we bring microbes to other planets, or we bring other microbes from other planets to Earth, things like that. But there are topics like how to use space for the benefit of humankind, and that's actually what we are working on a lot in the office. So we help countries to discuss those issues, and we implement what countries, member states, are telling us to do. And one of those things, thanks to the resolution on space and global health, is to work on raising awareness and build capacity on space and global health. So now you know two things that I wanted you to know before you are leaving the room, which is there is an Office for Outer Space Affairs in the UN, and then there is a Space and Global Health United General Assembly resolution. So the General Assembly resolution, it's basically a starting point for more things. And Caroline was mentioning before the Space and Global Health Network. Actually, the Space and Global Health Network was an outcome of that resolution and another resolution that was tabled at the same time on the peaceful uses of outer space. And if you want to get into diplomacy governance, the Space and Global Health Network is the right place to go, if you want to talk about space and health. Why? Because the Space and Global Health Network is represented together with the member states in those discussions that are happening around space. So that's a way to get involved. So we are supporting very much the Space and Global Health Network. We are, as I mentioned, we are raising awareness, trying to get more people to know that exist, space, health, those are topics that match very well together. And especially we are working with member states also in building those capacities up. So they use space for global health. So what did we do in those respects? It was mentioned earlier, by Ilona actually, that we had a conference last year. The international conference together with WHO, the World Health Organization, on space and global health. And that conference, that was in November last year, so it was 1 year after the General Assembly resolution, came out with 3 recommendations, 3 very basic recommendations. One, to build a curriculum that is multidisciplinary on space and global health. Why? Because there is a lot of people that don't know about space and global health. So by having that multidisciplinary curriculum, maybe more people know, and more people that is on the health sector learn about space, and more people on the space domain get to know about the health. And those efforts are now being carried out by the Space and Global Health Network. We are supporting there. So if you want to be involved in the development of the curriculum, again, Space and Global Health Network is the answer. That was recommendation number 1. Recommendation number 2, we were discussing about data before. Well, when you are putting satellites in orbit, you have satellites that are taking measurements of Earth. You have risks. I mean, those satellites are put because space agencies are interested in developing technology and to monitor. Some of those satellites are useful for monitoring climate change and other environmental variables. But currently, there is no framework for health. So the second recommendation was to create a set of space-based essential health variables. So those can be given to space agencies, so when they are developing missions, those are taken into account. So those measurements are done in the way that the health community actually wants them. And the third recommendation was on interoperability. Basically, try to get space data to get to talk to medical data and vice versa. And we know that there are big barriers there, because from the medical world to transfer information to space agencies, you have issues on data privacy. And those are very difficult to overcome. But we need those data in the space domain to be able to actually get our models and get to know which data is going to be the most useful for the applications that you're having. So that's why that third recommendation was there. What's next? What are we doing next? So actually, the next is next week. Next week, we are having, again, a United Nations World Health Organization regional conference this time on space technology for advancing global health. And regional because we are focusing on the Americas region. As I mentioned, I mean, we had these 3 recommendations, but if we want to be effective in implementing those 3 recommendations, we have to take into account regional needs. I mean, it's not the same needs in Asia than in the Americas than in Africa. So we are having that conference to gather regional needs on the curriculum to actually get tailor-made needs so we can convince decision makers in the region on utilizing space data for health, and also needs that are related to the space-based essential health variables that I mentioned, which are the measurements that they need in order to actually utilize space in a more effective manner. So there is a lot of things that are going on. I mean, of course, there are many aspects, and I'm not covering all, but I'm giving you a hint of the things that you can actually do to influence the process that is going on right now without deviating too much on many discussions that are happening. So, as I mentioned, next week we'll have that conference. We hope that it will be broadcasted. So, I mean, currently we don't have any more seats, but you can actually register and join online if you want to listen and learn more about how space is used in the Americas region. And we are going to be working on those matters. And if you want to work a little bit long term, again, engage with the committee and with the member states, join the Space and Global Health Network, because that's the way to put the foot into the discussions. Thank you.
Thank you very much for this. And I guess your subscriptions to the network and to your newsletter will skyrocket now. And the question that came up to my mind, didn't we have similar situations, for example, when there was a discussion about how to deal with Antarctica or the deep sea down there, whom does this belong, and so on? Is there something that we can learn from there, or do we really have to invent a new wheel? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Working.
Well, I mean, there are I think Antarctica and space are different because there are many things that you can consider space resources. And actually, that's the first discussion that is actually happening. What is the definition of a space resource? Is it an orbit? Is it a rock from the moon? What is it? So those discussions are happening now in order to be able to decide how to put governance and to put actually treaties on top of that. I don't think that those discussions are preventing what it has happened before, and there is something that is very clear, which is the Outer Space Treaty. The Outer Space Treaty's first paragraph is saying something that is enlightening, which is space is the province of humankind. Basically, it's for all. That's it.
Thank you. You know, the take-home message from this is a new problem. It's not a problem that we can solve by analogy. 80% of our problems we solve by, oh, it's working here, it might be working there. Here, as Jorge said, there is something new. So your brains can be activated. We need new ideas. I thank all the presentators and for their input. You didn't see any nice slides that we do next time, because otherwise you would just enjoy the artistic photos. And now the floor is open to you. And please raise your hand. We have a running mic, and I will go too, because perhaps I'm quicker than him. Please, what's your question and who shall answer?
Thank you very much. It's really interesting and getting to know new things and appreciate the great work. My question is to Rio, and anybody else can answer. How does this work, this innovative work, can help or benefit people who are left behind, people who are poorest of the poorer or the most vulnerable? How can this work benefit them, number one? And number two is now the satellites are also, satellite wastes are also there in the space, and what can be done about that? Thank you.
Thank you.
Oops. Can I ask for the second question? Can you repeat the second question? Sorry.
It's about the space debris.
Yeah, the space is having waste, like because of the satellites and other things. So we are discarding a lot of things in the space. What can be done about it, and how to clear that?
Someone has to bring the rubbish out, no?
Okay, so first question, you were asking about benefiting the poorer. I mean, the good thing about the space is that when you have a satellite orbiting the Earth, it's not basically skipping countries. You have the orbit, and it's actually taking measurements of the whole Earth. So there is no discrimination. The data is there. The data is available. It's actually up to those that can use the data to put it into motion. I mean, there is no discrimination there. And that's why we are working on those space health variables, because those are important. So be sure that all countries actually utilize space for health. Second question, space debris. That's a little bit more difficult. So there are guidelines from the committee on space debris mitigation. I mean, we know that is a problem. And there are also guidelines on long-term sustainability of outer space, because it's not the problem that we have now, it's also looking towards the future. We have to be mindful of that. And the Committee on the Peaceful Uses of Outer Space, which is the committee in the United Nations that is dealing with that, have put forward these two mechanisms, the space debris mitigation guidelines and the long-term sustainability guidelines for outer space activities. So there is work that is ongoing. Who is going to bring the trash down? Sometimes the trash comes by itself. But there is work for the trash that is not coming by itself. Thank you.
Manipal is even starting a satellite. The only mission is to deorbit itself, to learn how to deorbit satellites so that they really are destroyed. But you wanted to comment too.
Yes, one thing on the last issue is, we used to say there is no way to throw things anymore, and now you can't even throw it into space. That's so. Our vision of what we can do is also while being expanded, is being narrowed in terms of our responsibilities. But in terms of vulnerable populations, I just wanted to say that, and probably Carolyn knows much more about that, but I think one of the most interesting uses of space technology and monitoring is in disaster management, and is really to help the most vulnerable, help people that then, because first of all to find people, secondly of course even to then make medical care available to them digitally, etc. It's a fascinating area. It's really quite expanded already. It's being used by the UN to help people. Floods, earthquakes, whatever. So this interlink again, on the one hand, trying to predict some of these weather events, which already is helping the most vulnerable if you can get them, somewhere else earlier. But even if disaster strikes, a lot of the observation technology, etc., can support that. So that's just one example that's really being used already.
Okay. Then, yeah, I'm coming. So you are allowed to tell who you are and which organization.
So I'm Brigitte. I'm the health advisor for the NGO Action Against Hunger in France headquarters. I will just step. Yeah, I have to say I'm learning everything from today. And my main concern was what was written as well, and maybe a question, but what's the level of concern related to the risk of introducing mutated disease causing agent to Earth and carrying harmful microbe to extra-terrestrial region? What you were saying, there is a risk of bringing disease from Earth to the space and to bring disease from space to Earth. What's the level of concern for that? Because we have been speaking a lot about pandemics, AMR, etc. What's next? Thank you.
Who's this question to you?
Thank you again.
As they discussed, there have been 2 movies about this. Yeah, this problem. And they terminated itself. Please.
Yeah, maybe I can say a few words about this. So there is something that is called planetary protection. There is a topic that is exactly dealing with that. Is to protect the Earth from things that are coming from outside, like microbes that we don't know, from other celestial bodies. And the other way around, to try to avoid that we are contaminated places where potentially there might be life. And those are very strict regulations that are put there, very strict guidelines on planetary protection. There is a panel on that of the Committee on Space Research, COSPAR, that is working heavily on those. And actually there is a lot of maths involved to calculate those risks. So it's very well taken into account, and there is a lot of science behind. Currently, hopefully everything is avoided, even to go to Mars. Yeah.
Thank you for this. Ilona did not leave under protest. I think she's meeting Bill Gates or whomever. So we have to go on. Then we head here, and then we go on there. Please.
Christopher Hammelmann is my name. Thank you very much for the very interesting and mind-opening, space-opening discussion. You mentioned before also that the discussion is taking place in the context of manned or womaned missions in the future. I'm wondering, because that topic was not raised by any of the presenters, is this network also dealing more with biomedical aspects of what is changing for us if we in the future are exposed to the outer space in terms of physiology, in terms of mindset, in terms of psychology, of all these issues? Or is that not topic of the network?
In the beginning, we had discussion about this, and yes, there is also the aspect that, when you go to space, you are aging faster, and is there something that we can learn on Earth from that? But then, we have limited resources, so we had to pick some kind of priority topics that would be more pragmatic and maybe produce better results in the beginning. But yeah, it's a topic that is in the broader sense a part of it, but it's unfortunately not one of the priority areas at the moment.
Charité has a department for this, a little one at the clinics here dealing with this.
Yeah, thank you. My name is Aline Ziemann. I'm a recent global health graduate. And I was just having a question related to the regulatory frameworks, accountability mechanisms, and also good governance. Because when I think about space, those who have access to it is mostly the private sector and governments. But those who bear most of the risks and the benefits is civil society. So I was wondering, how do you meaningfully involve civil society in these regulatory frameworks? How do you ensure that, that they are heard and that they know about those risks and benefits? Thank you.
For you.
I'll try. So yeah, no, actually there is, so I mentioned before the Committee on the Peaceful Uses of Outer Space of the United Nations. That committee is formed by member states, but also international and non-governmental organizations. And that's the way, for instance, Space and Global Health Network is heard in the committee, and that's how other organizations' voice is heard in the committee. So it's not actually left aside. And there is also an organization that is dealing with youth, so young voices are also heard in the committee.
Thank you.
My name is Klaus Fleck. I'm a medical journalist for Medscape. Jorge, you said that satellites take data from all over the world, and that's why there was no discrimination, as you described. But these satellites, they are owned by countries or private companies. So don't you see the risk that there is a massive competition also, and that maybe countries use the data for their purposes and suppress data that could be helpful for other countries, but would not be in their interest?
Going to be a little bit mean here. So if we are talking about a private company normally works on profit, and if you are coming with money to a private company, normally you are getting the data. It's more or less like that. Government data, there is a lot of data that is free and available. There is a lot of policies that have been going into that direction since already many years. You have, for instance, the European system that is called Copernicus on Earth observation, and all data can be downloaded by anybody. You can actually go to the Copernicus website and get the data. It's 10-meter resolution to actually monitor a lot of variables. So I don't see that risk. That risk is probably if you are going below the chain, if you are going to satellites that have military applications, and those are very, very high resolution, but we are not dealing with those.
Am I allowed to shoot down a satellite of another country?
That's a bad idea.
Yeah, my name is Angela Brandt. I'm Maastricht University. And I would challenge again to say, because I worked and my also family background is more on space and issues and with geophysics, and on the other hand on ocean science, planetology and ocean science. So for me it really is, both belong so tightly together. And when we hear the examples of 3D printing possibilities, manufacturing in space, same as in ocean science and in the blue tech health domain in the moment. When I hear about oxygen tables, same. When I think about adaptation of the body, or what the colleague said from India, also what types of treatments, medication, I see a lot of similarities. Geopolitical problems, the ocean, where we energy production. So for me, I think it needs a governance model which covers both, to go to the space, to go in the depths, deeper in the earth. For me, it's really, if we do it separately, the governance frameworks, I fear it will not, I think it's good always to think beyond and think to get it matched.
Thank you.
More statement or question, more. Even the astronauts, they are trained underwater, no? Yes. But I guess that are other reasons. So, questions, further questions.
Thank you. I'll just go. Francisca Ofira from the Federal Foreign Office. I currently work on global health at the permanent representation in Geneva. And as a policy person, I would come back to the governance issue. I think Professor Kickbusch mentioned some issues that she feels like they need governance, but asking very specifically, do you feel like there are issues on space and global health that urgently or in the short or midterm need a governance solution? Is there issues that you feel should be addressed? And a more long-term question, where would that take place? Just starting to think about that makes my head hurt. Because there are so many organizations that could be relevant. You just mentioned COPUOS, the Committee on the Peaceful Use of Outer Space. But if we talk about satellite use, the International Telecommunications Union might play a role. those who have experience with dealing with Earth observation data, the World Meteorological Organization, WHO, of course, like semi-private entities, the Group on Earth Observation. So where would that governance take place, and how do we make all these organizations that could play a role, that can contribute, talk to each other for regulating these issues on health and space?
You want to go? Okay. Yes, it's very complicated. Short answer. I mean, your first question was, there is a need for governance. And I mean, that's already a very complicated question. My feeling, if you want to be very specific on having specific governance for space and health, is like having a specific governance on the internet because you are transferring medical data. So would be putting a layer of governance on the internet because, well, internet and health, because you are transferring medical data. So for me, I don't feel that need for the moment. What I feel more important is first raising awareness. I mean, there is a lot of people that don't know, and a lot of medical doctors that don't know that space can be used. Also, local and country authorities that don't know that space can be used for health purposes. And also the space agencies have to be mindful that the data that they are producing have to be produced in a stable manner. You cannot launch a satellite that is providing very important information that is used by medical doctors and then discontinue that satellite because technology is going somewhere else. Those, for me, are two key aspects. And on those two, we are working already. And we are working from the space side in the Office for Outer Space Affairs. Of course, there are interlinkages with other UN entities. I mean, if you are talking about frequency, you have to involve ITU. If you're talking about health, you have to involve WHO, the World Health Organization. And that's why we are doing the conferences together, because we cannot address those topics ourselves alone. So I hope that that helps a little bit. Probably not completely, but a little.
You said it's difficult.
It's difficult.
Yeah. We will send a man to the moon in this decade. And we do it not because it's easy, we are doing this because it's difficult. Someone said, and then he gave the order to start the rockets. So I think the challenge is exactly because it's difficult. And we have the same, for example, when we do an internet-based operation with the pet, and suddenly the internet provider has a dropout. Whom can I sue? No?
Hello, my name is Pratima, and I'm a policy advisor at Ministry of Health for Government of Canada. My question can be beginner-friendly, since I am an entry-level person. I'm more curious to know if anyone on the panel has an example to provide to help me understand if we have, if any of you folks have provided surveillance support in managing flora and fauna, which is on extent level to low middle income countries. Does that make sense? Like any surveillance support for proper management of flora and fauna in any low middle income countries. Mm-hmm. Or maybe this can not be the priority of this panel, but I was just curious.
I mean, I don't have a concrete example, but environmental monitoring is one of the key applications also, and building, like ESA, I know they're working on building models that will allow you also to predict, if you change certain factors to predict things. Like we saw during the Corona pandemic, in Venice, dolphins came back in the city because all the activities, and this is one of the things, for example, they're able now to model, I think, because they're collecting so much data on the environment. But I don't have specific example for.
I have, and this is related to the previous question also, that there are different levels, right? In the United Nations, there is the United Nations Organization for Drugs and Crime, and they are actually utilizing satellites for crime activities, so to try to monitor crime activities. And they have one project to try to stop wildlife trafficking utilizing satellites. So that's an example that is very concrete and is supporting actually emerging countries, especially in Africa, where there are a lot of reservoirs of those animals. So that exists, and that support is provided to countries. Yes.
And after there's a lot of GIS, using satellite data in Geneva. There's Access Health, where they're mapping what's the closest access to health facilities. It's used a lot for prediction of disease outbreaks, things like that.
Yeah, and also our system can provide some more public goods to help people know where the low-income countries are now, and tells people what will happen if these countries are affected, and the importance of helping them will be shown in our system. And this also be an example for doing something from the space for them. Yeah.
I have a question to Dr. Thoma. India has such a long history in starting rockets. Even one of your presidents was a rocket scientist.
Yes.
And would this be a topic that we could put on the regional meeting that we will have in April next year in Delhi, to go on and, for example, discuss with ISRO what they are doing?
Well, we can put forward. It's a very, very good question, very good. I think we have to decide it now. We should put forward, because not much is here been concluded. Everything is now hanging. So probably we have to go further and to achieve something concrete, not really concrete, but near to what we can do for all these things now.
Okay, Caroline and Jörg, you have to skip your holidays in April. Delhi is calling. Who was next year?
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for the panel. It was really interesting. And I wanted to go back to the topic that you were saying of crime, because I think many of the applications of satellite images for global health sometimes involve topics that are criminal or are illegal. For example, mining that is connected to malaria, or even like destroying forests. And this often comes like from the state, and the images also come from the state, from the states, from like countries. Do you think this could be a problem or a thing that that puts in bias into the data that we are using for global health?
I don't see how, probably because I didn't understand the question well. So the way United Nations operates is under request of member states. We have mandates from member states, and that's where I don't really see the disconnect that you were mentioning. We will have next week, and again I invite you to attend to the conference virtually. We will have a presentations on illegal activities and how those have triggered what you have mentioned, malaria outbreak, and how that can be used by the government to actually be aware that if those activities are happening, maybe those activities are first priority to stop the illegal activity going on, but then they are going to have a second problem, which is an outbreak that is going to affect the population, and they will have to be dealing with that later on.
So we are now in health in all policies. Perfect. We can close the circle. I think here was one question.
Hi, I'm Sanjay. I'm a director of Institute of Public Health at NIMS University. My question is to Caroline. You said you are working on developing programs, MOOC, on space and global health. So how accessible it will be for all? Or will it be costlier?
No, it will be, it's a priority is to make it accessible to everyone. So
excellent.
It's going to be fully open MOOCs.
Thank you.
Something from Switzerland for free?
Yeah. It's not Switzerland, it's a global effort. Huh?
Okay, thank you. I'm Gordon Liu from China, Beijing. You mentioned earlier that you're office will sponsor or co-sponsor a conference on space and One Health next week in the U.S., in New York City. Is that what you...
No, so we are going to have this regional conference that is focused on the Americas region,
Yeah.
American and Caribbean, but it's going to take place in Vienna. And the reason we are going to, right? The reason we are going to have it in Vienna, we have invited experts from the region to come to Vienna. We want to involve those that are representing those countries in the Committee on the Peaceful Use of Outer Space to be engaged in the conference, and those people are sitting in Vienna.
Okay.
That's the reason.
Okay, great. So if we are interested in a topic about space and planetary health, and if we propose to organize such a high-level conference in China, Beijing, would you be able to support spiritually, financially, or you will help us find the speakers for us? So what do you mean by you would support such activities? I want to know exactly how you can support us if we do something like that.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so then back to the way the office operates. So we have the Space and Global Health resolution, General Assembly resolution. That's why we are working with the Space and Global Health Network. And we are organizing a series of events. We have the international conference, we have a regional conference on Americas this year. Next year, probably we are going to have it on Africa. The following year, we'll have it in Asia. So maybe there is an opportunity to cooperate there. Maybe we can talk on the margins.
We'll have to follow your schedule.
In that case, yes. There is another way in which the office is actually doing activities, but those are under request of member states. So if China comes to the office and says, we would like to have an activity on this matter, we will have to see, according to the funding that the office has, when that activity can take place, because there are other requests that are competing at the moment. So.
Or invite them to a conference like here. It was not on your schedule. So let's see. Anyone else who wants to take the floor, has complaints, suggestions? You're all confused, but on a higher level? Okay. A little bit tired because you had no slides to rest your eye on. You always had to think.
Thank you. Maybe last question. Hi, I'm Juliane Miro. I'm working for the German Alliance on Climate Change and Health, and I'm currently conducting research on the potential health effects of an AMOC collapse, the AMOC being the North Atlantic Current, which is a critical tipping point in a climate system. And my question to Dr. Chen, I think it is, can you actually monitor climate tipping points from space? That's the first question. And the second question, is it worth it? Because space activity is also very polluting and contributing to climate change. So is it worth it to safeguard the lives of future generations? Thank you.
Yeah.
Good questions.
Yeah, very good questions. Yeah, I think there are two major parts. The first is that we actually could not measure maybe we see climate change or also just from the satellite. And we have to merge this data all from the satellites, from the ground, from the data that's generated from the statisticals, and we use complex statistical methods to analyze, and then we draw the conclusion. So the monitor is not just to look and to get what conclusions out, but to get data, to gather data, and form our conclusion from analysis. So that is truly monitoring. So yeah, and the second is for young generations. I think we can do in three methods. The first one is just to try more innovation methods, try more innovation ideas, and we are young. As the civilization is young, we have the chance to make small errors, and small errors will get us to further development. And the second is that we can be more open to the advanced technologies, and we may support more by our ideas and by the innovations from the space and into the space. And all these events could be take apart by ourselves. Yeah.
Yesterday they got a rocket back to the landing point to recycle it. What for us sounds, so what, has been a major breakthrough for preventing exactly using more and more fuel to get those things up. Perhaps at one time we use an electromotor or something like this.
Yeah.
Maybe. Ladies and gentlemen, we are still in time, but I see that your brains are exhausted because so much information without slides, and you had to think, that. I have two wishes. One would be, shall we have in April or next year here a Kalam lecture on this topic? Because Kalam was in India the president who really worked on rocket science before, and I think that is a very interesting history to give it a little bit more prominent status, at least to have a special lecture for this. We can discuss this.
Okay.
And the second wish I have for you is read more science fiction. Until next year, and I guess Ilona is not there, but I think I can speak on her behalf. That was not the last time that we met with this topic, and so you are the front runners. Spread the news, multiply the news, and take it serious. I think a lot of you would have got insights now. Even I got a lot of insight that it might be very useful to think about this issue. So thank you for attending. Thank you, the people on the live stream. You could not ask questions, but perhaps next year we have this possibility too. And I think there will be an important event coming in 1 hour or so where we all meet again. And I wish you still a fruitful conference and some relaxing hours. Thank you.